Hi, I'm Jason, K4 APRs, my wife Shayna.
KI4 UDD.
And our daughter Sophia.
Yeah, daughter Sophia.
Anyways, so we are getting ready to take a trip out to Lynchburg, Virginia. Actually, we're going to Roanoke first. We live in Chesapeake, and we are going to participate in the 2022 Appalachian Trail Golden Packet, which is an event that was started by Bob Berninga years ago. And basically, it is an event where we set up 15 APRS packet stations along the Appalachian Trail, and we're going to basically bounce packets up and down the Appalachian Trail all along the each station that we set up. So anyways, this is our first year in being involved in this, and I've been involved in APRS for a long time, but I'd known Bob for many years, and of course it's the sad, with the passing of Bob, that we're having to do this in his memory opposed to him being involved with us this year. So that's what makes this year so special, since we're doing it in his memory. But anyways, we're going to try to document this whole thing and try to produce a cool video that we can show how the whole thing comes together. So we'll take you along the ride, and hope you enjoy it. Good morning from Roanoke, Virginia. Got some sleep last night. There's a little anticipation and excitement for today, so had a little bit of a tough time getting to sleep, but I think I'm all rested and ready for today. We're going to grab a little bit of breakfast and head over to Apple Orchard Mountain. So looking forward to it, and we'll see you there. Okay, we're just a few minutes from starting the event. This is our setup here. This is our co-ATGPers, I guess we could say that. And we're making progress. We have heard one other station. We heard Comer's Mountain. So at least we know something's working. Here's our antennas. This is our main antenna with GPS antenna. And this is our iGate antenna. Forgive the makeshift radials. And this is our other GPS antenna for the iGate. Alright, we're 45 minutes into the 1200 baud, and these are the stations that we can see so far. There's been a few hiccups with some of the sites, but for the most part, things are starting to work. Everyone's still here. No one's bailed out yet. The bugs are a killer out here. Hey, this is Jason from the future. So as I was putting together the clips that I took for this whole event, I realized I didn't really have enough that really explained the equipment and what it was and how exactly we were using it. So I'm going to insert some additional video clips just kind of explaining some of that equipment, showing some of it, showing how some of it was hooked up, and I even highlight a few pieces that I designed specifically for this, and hopefully that will give you a little more understanding of what exactly this whole event was about. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the equipment that used for the event. Now, there's going to be some similar equipment that all the sites used, and then there's going to be some different equipment. So we'll start off with these two boxes. These are some custom boxes I built to hold basically the radios. So I work for Motorola, and I use a lot of Motorola gear for amateur radios. So these particular radios, these are CDM 1250s made by Motorola. VHF on the top, UHF underneath, and then below is a Kenwood D710, which I'll pull the control head out. So there's the control head, and then actually this is technically an RCD 710, and the radio that's connected to is a V71, both made by Kenwood. Those tied together basically make a D710 radio that's fully APRS capable for 1200 baud as well as 9600 baud. The whole first part of the event was operating at 1200 baud and 9600 baud. Basically the first 2 hours was 1200 baud, 9600 baud, and for the most part everyone was using either a D710. Some might have been using a D700, the older radio. And I think in maybe one or two cases, somebody was using like a D72, which is the handheld version. Then started off at 1200 baud, then 9600 baud, and we used the Kenwood radios. So basically, as long as your Kenwood was programmed correctly and on the right frequency, you could participate in those, what they called the classic testing, which again was 1200, 9600 baud respectively. So anyways, that was the Kenwood radio aspect of the event. The second half of the event was using a device that was based around a Raspberry Pi called the Appliance. They kind of commonly refer to it as the Appliance. My appliance is this second Raspberry Pi right here. So this one right here. I'm trying to show it the best I can. The Raspberry Pi, I used the 3B Plus, I believe it was. Most of the stations were using what was called a Dyna module. It's a USB sound card made specifically for amateur radio applications, and it would plug into one of the USB ports, and it had a minied in packet connector on it, so it was capable of 1200 baud, 9600 baud. It also has ground and push to talk on those pins as well, so the whole interface is there to interface with the radio. I took it one step further, and I'm going to try to show this a little bit better with the light. This lower board right here, this is actually a Dyna clone that I created to make it a little more embeddable with the Raspberry Pi. With the standard Dyna module that sticks off the end, and I've never liked things like that hanging off a USB port. There's always a chance for it to fail or to get hit and break the port, that sort of thing. So I designed a version of the Dyna that would basically bolt right to the Pi, and then if you can tell, there's a USB micro cable here that plugs in, and there's a short cable, this short black and white cable here that plugs into the port. So it still plugs into one of the standard ports on the Pi. It just doesn't stick out as much, and there's not as much of a chance of it getting damaged. So anyways, that was the appliance that I put together for the event. Also, this power supply is a power supply I designed. It's a switching power supply that will take in up to about 30 volts, and it will give you 5 volts at 5 amps. And there's a little jumper that jumps it directly to the Pi, and that powers the whole thing. So that allows me to plug 12 volts DC in through this power pole, power the whole thing, and I don't have to worry about having 5 volt power adapters and all this other stuff, old cell phone adapters. So try to make the thing as compact and single kind of unit as much as possible. And then these yellow brackets are just 3D printed brackets I designed to make it really easy to attach these to some DIN rail. You can see the DIN rail here. I had some standard off-the-shelf DIN brackets, and they're kind of hard to see with the light here. But these gray brackets, they bolt to the bottom of my yellow bracket, and then the whole thing snaps to the DIN rail. So, and I made two of these brackets for that very purpose. Now this pie is essentially the same thing, with the exception of, now it does have the same power supply that I designed, but what it doesn't have is it doesn't have the Dyna clone. It's got a Nino TNC, and this was designed by Nino Carrillo, and he actually designed these for the Tarpon Group, which is a packet group out in North Carolina. And what's unique about this is it's a $35 TNC that is capable of 1200 baud, 2400 baud, 4800 baud, and 9600 baud over the air. So this thing's quite capable and quite unique for the price point. And I use this pie for my eye gate out at the event. So that was the whole point of having the second pie, was to have that operating as an eye gate. Let's step back a little bit and I'll talk about the interface to the radio. So the Dyna, my clone of the Dyna board here has a mini DIN. In order to connect that to the radio, I have a mini DIN cable, but I also have a 16-pin adapter board I designed that goes to a 6-pin mini DIN. So if I unplug this, you'll see it's a 16-pin to mini DIN, and there's a pot here for controlling for setting the receive audio level, and that is made to plug directly into the back of these CDM 1250 radios. Okay, I turned it around so we can maybe see a little bit better. You can see one of the adapters is plugged into the radio there, and that's what these adapters are used for. They allow me to easily plug and plug my version of the Dyna directly into a CDM 1250, Motorola CDM 1250. And that's how I interfaced the appliance device to the radio. For my eye gate, the Nino TNC has a standard DB9 with what would be commonly referred to as the Cantronics pinout, and that's using one of my cables just going from one of my Motorola adapters and going to that DB9. This is also a special thing that I've come up with. It's hard to tell in here because of the light, but on this one you can see that there's a hole. There's actually a switch in there, and that switch allows you to connect the receive pin to either the 9600 baud or the 1200 baud pin on the mini DIN end. So it makes it very easy to switch the configuration. So if you're operating 1200 baud, you have the switch in one direction, and if you're operating 9600 baud, you have it in the other direction. That keeps you from having to have two different cables, keeps you from having to change the pin out. The switch does that because the standard mini DIN packet port has both 9600 baud and 1200 baud pins on it. So not having to change anything at the DB9 end, you just hit that switch and it makes the change. Alright, so that's most of the information about the radios themselves. This box was just one that I built for the iGate. This is another VHF radio for the iGate. This was a UHF DMR radio I was using to keep in touch with a couple other people during the event. This wasn't a crucial thing, this was just something I added. A couple other things that I used was a custom GPS board that I designed around the Radio Nova module. This is a USB GPS module. I designed this for a couple reasons. One, I wanted something that I could plug a cable into and not have this actually hanging off the USB port. I wanted to have a separate cable going from it to the port. I also wanted the easy way to have an external antenna. I didn't want to use a chip antenna or anything like that. So this has a standard SMA female connector on it. And in order to do that, I had to have a GPS antenna, and this is what I actually use. These are some repurposed Trimble. Let's see if I can get that to focus. These are repurposed Trimble GPS antennas. And I just use this gray conduit, and I thread them so that they fit the 3/4 pipe thread, and these screw right on, and of course the coax will go right up through the pipe. That's the antenna I use for the GPSs, and I had two of those GPSs running for the event. So speaking of antennas for the event, this was one of the antenna arrays or setups that I was using. This is I think it was about $40 or $50. It's actually meant to be a speaker stand, like a DJ speaker stand I got off of Amazon. And I have a diamond 50NA, which is a dual band fiberglass antenna attached right here, and that just bolted straight to the vertical pipe coming out of the stand. The GPS antenna is another one of those Trimble antennas with the gray conduit pipe that's been threaded at the top. And then these brackets that are holding the pipe are just some simple brackets I designed and 3D printed. So I had a real universal way of connecting this to the pipe with having it stand off a little bit. And this worked really well. This worked really well. We were able to hook both antennas up, have both coaxes running together right back to the shelter where we had everything set up. This pipe does go up about another 3 or 4 feet. I don't think it really bothered us all that much being on the mountaintop. It probably didn't matter if I had it up 3 feet or not, but I did it just because you know, I had it to use, and it worked pretty well. And we had 2 of these set up almost identical. That's the antenna setup that we used. All right, so it's the day after the Appalachian Trail Golden Packet event, and well, we ended up having to actually shut down a little early. There was some bad weather at some of the sites, and about an hour prior to the planned shutdown time, we were given the word to shut down early and just get out. So when that happened, just kind of went into shutdown mode and started taking everything apart and packing everything up. And so I kind of stopped taking videos of stuff. So unfortunately, this video is not as complete as I wanted it to be. However, I wanted to at least shoot one last little thing, just saying that you know, the event was fun. It was mostly a success. I'm currently getting gas right now, so we can get on the road. And we're looking forward to doing it again next year. But in the future, definitely learn some lessons on you know, how to do things better in the future. Maybe avoid some problems we ran into, that sort of thing. So, anyways, thanks for watching the video, and we'll catch you on the next one.